So look at Anthony Ryder from South Lyon, Michigan, recently selected as the Lions 2020 Fan of the Year. He has a passion about sports broadcasting.
With the 112th selection in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver, USC. One pride, baby! Yeah! What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Detroit Lions video. Now, today we are going to be taking a look at the 45th overall pick in the 2023 NFL Draft. After falling to the 45th overall selection and the Lions trading up with the division rival Green Bay Packers, the Lions ended up selecting Brian Branch, a player that inexplicably fell all the way through the first round of the draft into the early night two, and despite being graded as a top 10 player by some people in this class, didn't end up going. And so the Lions made a move and traded up to the 45th overall pick to select Brian Branch, the defensive back from Alabama. And today we are going to talk about Brian Branch. We're going to talk about his strengths and weaknesses. We're going to talk about what he brings to the Detroit Lions secondary, why he might have fallen, and why this might be the best pick from the 2023 NFL draft class. So with all that being said, let's get right on into taking a look at Brian Branch, the defensive back from Alabama. Now, starting off with what he did a season ago, in 2022 for the Crimson Tide, Brian Branch recorded 90 tackles, 14 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions, and 7 passes defended. He played primarily as a slot or nickel defensive back, as well as playing a little bit of box safety and deep safety as well. He is a versatile piece that genuinely can play anywhere on the field, despite not necessarily playing the most reps at deep safety. I think he can play anything from the deep safety to the box safety to the slot cornerback to even boundary cornerback if it really comes down to it. And we will talk about that in a little bit. But firstly, let's take a look at his strengths and weaknesses. Now, Brian Branch is a very instinctual football player. He is a very versatile football player, and he is a playmaker around the line of scrimmage. Those 14 tackles for loss were just 3 tackles for loss less than third overall pick Will Anderson Jr., the edge rusher from Alabama. He is somebody that is very instinctual, reads plays very well, is not afraid to pull the trigger, is a very strong tackler, a very polished prospect, if you will, and somebody that is not going to make very many mistakes. Now, his versatility, I think, is his biggest calling card in this draft, but I think it's also part of the reason that Brian Branch might have fallen. I don't think he has a distinct role in the NFL yet, and I honestly don't think that nickel cornerback is incredibly highly valued when it comes to building and constructing an NFL roster. However, I think Brian Branch suffers from a very similar fate that Minkah Fitzpatrick did. Minkah Fitzpatrick played a very similar role at the University of Alabama, and actually Brian Branch played the Minkah Fitzpatrick role, being a slot cornerback, being a box safety, but potentially playing a little bit of deep safety as well and not looking bad in the slightest. They were both versatile prospects from Alabama that had a lot of question marks going into the NFL because how high are you going to draft a slot cornerback? How high are you going to take a nickel DB when you could probably find somebody to play that role in the later rounds, if not undrafted free agency or regular free agency? However, Brian Branch, I think, is the best nickel defender in this class. He will be a slot cornerback, but he'll also play a little bit of safety. And this guy is just a playmaker. I mean, put him around the line of scrimmage, tell him to go tackle the ball carrier, tell him to go get turnovers, tell him to go make an impact, and he's going to go make an impact. Now, his cons are going to be his athleticism. He's not the most athletically gifted player, only having a 5.27 RAS score and not having elite or even above average grades in any single category from size, speed, explosiveness, or agility. He's not a great athlete, but he makes up with that with his lack of athleticism, with his instincts and just the way he plays football. Now, taking a look at Brian Branch's versatility specifically, he played a lot of snaps at the University University of Alabama last year. Played 569 snaps, defensive snaps, lined up as a slot cornerback. Played 136 snaps, lined up as a box safety. Played 25 snaps, lined up as a deep middle fielding free safety. 14 snaps as a boundary cornerback, and 24 snaps as a defensive line edge rusher. He played every level of the defense and honestly didn't look bad at any of them. He looked very natural in the slot, covering defensive backs, looked very natural in the box, stepping up to make tackles on the running back, blitzing the quarterback, or just kind of being in zone coverage in the intermediate parts of the field and taking away a lot of good passing lanes. And then of course, as a safety, he did play some deep safety for Alabama. Not a ton, but a decent amount, enough at least to kind of get a feel of can he do it or can he not. The same thing goes for defensive line, which obviously you're not going to draft, but he did show the ability to blitz very well and get after the quarterback when he was asked to do so. And then boundary cornerback as well. There was a couple reps where he did play on the boundary. It wasn't a ton. You're not going to have him do it in the NFL, but in a very, very, very crucial situation, right? Every cornerback is hurt like the Patriots a year a season ago. I think that you could potentially even play Brian Branch at cornerback, and he's probably not going to thrive, but he could at least survive in the NFL being a boundary cornerback. Now, as I said, looking at his RAS score, the free safety from Alabama, only a 5.27 RAS score, but he does have good speed, 4.58 speed, not bad. His 10-yard split is actually really good, something that I think is overlooked a lot more than the 40-yard dash, right? Everybody looks at 40 and goes, oh, that guy's fast. Oh, that guy can move. But I think a bigger thing is going to be the 10-yard split, because there's going to be a lot more times where you're making a 10-yard sprint than you're making a 40-yard sprint. There's going to be a lot more times where your acceleration and your get off is going to be more important than your long speed. And that, I think, is where Brian Branch really excels. He's very quick. He's a very decisive athlete, and he has a good first step. So he combines that 10-yard split speed with his instincts, and he always ends up in the right spot at the right time. Now, his size isn't very good, only 5'11", 190 pounds. Not a great size for a free safety in the NFL. His explosiveness grade was okay, only 34.5 inches on the vertical and 10 foot 5 inch on the broad jump. Not awful numbers, but not an elite athlete. And then as far as the agility score, his shuttle score was pretty bad. And then he did not participate in the 3 cone, so he didn't get a score there. But, overall, we know Brian Branch isn't a great athlete. We know Brian Branch is a polished football player that's not an athlete, right? He's not an Anthony Richardson. He's not, a toolsy player like Tyree Wilson, right? He's a polished product. You know what you're getting on day one. And he might not have the highest ceiling, but his floor is a Pro Bowl defensive back. And if you're getting that in the second round, you're doing a pretty good job as the NFL general manager. Now, going over his final grade as far as the initial grade coming out of the draft, I think this is the easiest A+ that you can give. I think Brian Branch was the steal of the second round. I would argue the steal of the entire NFL draft. He was great as a top 10, top 15 prospect, a consensus night one guy. The NFL felt comfortable bringing him into the NFL draft, knowing that he was going to go night one. Unfortunately, it did not end up happening, but he returned on day 2, celebrated with Lions fans after being picked at 45. And I think that this guy is a bona fide first-round pick. He was a top 20 pick on my board, was a top 10 pick on others' boards, and you got him with the 45th overall selection. And I think that this pick is so good, you could potentially switch this pick with Jahmyr Gibbs. Say, oh, you took Brian Branch at 12th overall, Jack Campbell at 18th, Sam Laporta at 34, and Jahmyr Gibbs at 45. And I think that the grade for Brian Branch at 12 would still be an A. He is that good and that impactful of a player, is going to play a lot of different roles for the Lions defense. It's going to be kind of that Swiss Army knife on the Detroit Lions defense, and is really going to help take this team to a next level. He has depth, he has talent, he has playmaking ability, and he is going to be a great member of the Detroit Lions secondary. But with all that being said, that is all we have for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below what you think about this pick. How do you grade it? How do you think the player is going to fit? What role do you think Brian Branch is going to have on the Detroit Lions defense throughout 2023? And just let me know your thoughts and comments down below in the comment section. I'd be very curious to hear how you guys graded the pick. But with all that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions!